Hi, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching and for subscribing. And if you're just visiting, please consider subscribing. So today is part 2 of my top 10 for life series, and this one is going to be about designer fragrance. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I already did these top 10 lists about a year ago. And my designer collection hasn't really changed all that much since last year. So if I were to do, top 10 for life designer fragrances again now, I think my list would be quite similar to my list from last year, which obviously doesn't make sense. So I decided to put a little twist on my top 10 designer fragrances, and I'm going to share with you top 10 of this strange category that we can never place. Is it designer or is it niche? But I think at the end of the day, it is really designer, and I'm talking about designer private line. So I'm going to share with you top 10 fragrances from designer private lines. So let's start with a fragrance that not many people talk about. In fact, not many people talk about this whole line. This is a private line from Chopard, and the fragrance is called Meow The RB. I think this is one of the most beautiful and understated fragrances that I came across in recent time. This is so beautiful and somewhat unusual. The main notes in here are spices, honey, pomegranate, and tea. And I'm definitely getting this beautiful honey in here, but it's not too sweet. It doesn't have, it's not, let's say it's not processed honey. It really smells like raw honey. It has some pomegranate, which adds a little bit of tartness, and definitely tea is in here, but again, the note of tea is not very strong. Spices to me are not evident at all. Instead, I have a bit of a citrusy vibe in here. So beautiful, comforting, elegant, definitely very unisex. I have to say my husband enjoys this fragrance as well and reaches for it a bit too much, in my opinion. This is such a stunning fragrance. Really, more people need to talk about it, I think, and it definitely had to be in my top 10 for life. Of course, this list couldn't happen without Guerlain. And the first fragrance from Guerlain that I included is Gramond Cocaine. Again, one of my newer additions and the one that has been on my wish list for a really long time. So this is a beautiful gourmand. It has dark chocolate, cacao, rum, vanilla, spices, rose, and pepper. And definitely chocolate is here. It is dark chocolate, but it is not too bitter. Vanilla adds the sweetness, and there is a little bit of booziness in here as well. Again, very elegant fragrance. This is such an understated gourmand. It is not too thick or too heavy. I think this fragrance will not only work in cold weather, but I think this will work perfectly in the warm weather as well. Again, because the sweetness is not too thick and not too overpowering. So this is gorgeous, deserves all the hype that this fragrance gets, in my opinion, and so this definitely had to be in my top 10. Next one that I included is from Viktor and Rolf, and this is Dancing Roses. I think this has been discontinued at this point. I'm not sure. I had no idea why. This is such a beautiful fragrance, and definitely the best from this line from Viktor and Rolf. This has this amazingly beautiful combination of rose and sour cherry. I just absolutely love it. I love rose and I have fallen in love with sour cherry, and they're mixed together in such a gorgeous way here. I love it. There's also lychee and there's also brandy, and maybe there's a little bit of booziness here, but really to my nose, I would not classify it as a boozy scent. I really don't get a lot of that. Lychee is definitely here, adds some sweetness and some creaminess. And overall, if you enjoy rose, if you enjoy the note of cherry, this is beautiful. And they really need to bring it back. If it's really discontinued, and I think it is, they definitely need to bring it back. Next one that I included in my top 10 list is from Carolina Herrera. This is Nightfall Patchouli. This is the only fragrance that I have from this line and the only one that I have tried. These fragrances are extremely expensive, and I'm very curious about trying others, but I have nowhere to sample them, and I'm sort of scared to blind buy because they're so expensive. But this one, of course, was a blind buy as well, and this one worked out beautifully. The name is a little bit deceiving because based on the name, you might think that this is really about the strong, heavy patchouli, and to me, it is not. I mean, patchouli is definitely here, but it's a very chocolatey type of patchouli, and I think it will appeal to those that might be scared of this note. In addition to that, there's also cinnamon, clove, benzoin, bergamot. So it is definitely sweet. It is a little bit spicy, and like I said, it has the chocolate vibe, and I believe it's coming from patchouli because, you know, patchouli can be very different. Sometimes it is very earthy, sometimes it is kind of a sweet and chocolatey, and it is definitely sweet and chocolatey type of patchouli in this scent. It is kind of reminiscent or going in the same direction as Ojan from Parfums de Marly. If you've tried that and you enjoy the type of scent, this one is sort of very similar. I would not say that it's identical or it's a real dupe, but they definitely share a lot of similarities. So this is warm, this is spicy, this is kind of sweet. It has some, even though I said, you know, patchouli is chocolatey, yes, it's mostly chocolatey, but I think patchouli always give an element of earthiness to the fragrance, and it's definitely here as well. It kind of balances out the sweetness and maybe the spiciness. Very, very beautiful. Again, kind of a little bit understated fragrance. This is not a beast. This is not very loud, but at the same time, it is present and it has good performance. So again, the only one I've tried from this collection, but I would definitely recommend this one. Now, the next one should not come as a surprise. Of course, I had to include Fab Delicios from Dior. This is kind of I guess a classic, a staple, a raved about fragrance, and for a good reason. This is so beautiful. This fragrance is mostly about tonka. There's also vanilla in here, milk, mint, cacao, sandalwood, a lot of other notes. There are actually a lot of notes in this fragrance, but mostly you get really sweet, slightly chocolatey, slightly coffee type of tonka. I mentioned before that to me in the opening, it has a burst of mint, which I typically don't like, but for some reason it works in here, and it actually disappears quite quickly. And you're left with this enveloping, comforting, warm, soothing, rich type of tonka. Gorgeous, gorgeous scent, deserves all the hype that it gets. And of course, if I'm choosing 10 for life, this one was a no-brainer. Next, I have a couple of fragrances that again are not very talked about, but I think they deserve to be talked about more, and that's why I've included them in my top 10 list. The first one is from Prada. This is Soleil or Zenith. Again, the only one that I've tried from this line. Not sure if I will try anything else, but this one is stunning. This has a very prominent note of peach, which really worried me when I was purchasing it because peach is not one of my favorite notes, but it is a really nice peach in here. It is fuzzy, it is a little bit tart, a little bit sweet. It is just not too peachy, and so it really works, and it is balanced beautifully by the other notes, more specifically ylang ylang and sandalwood. They give some they kind of balance out the fruitiness and floral elements of this fragrance, and sandalwood makes everything really creamy. There is also nutmeg, cumin, vanilla, pimento, so there are definitely a lot of spices in here, but spices are also not overpowering, not overwhelming, so you kind of get spicy peach with a little bit of ylang ylang, sweetness from vanilla and creaminess from sandalwood, and the whole concoction together just works beautifully. This fragrance is not very light. Like this is thick, this is deep, this is rich. You know, despite it being a fruity scent overall, and fruity scents tend to be kind of on a lighter level, but this one I would say feels thick and deep, and it works. I think this is the type of fruity scent that will work pretty much in any weather, maybe not in a dead cold, but as soon as it warms up a little bit, it works, and it will also work in the summer. So this is really, really beautiful. Again, this is Soleil or Zenith from Prada. And the next one is from Salvatore Ferragamo Private Collection, and this is called White Mimosa. This one really nobody talks about. I had such a hard time finding any reviews on this fragrance, but I decided to try it because I have been a fan of the note of mimosa, and I think beside this one, I really don't have any fragrances that have this note as the prominent note, and so I really wanted to try it, and I was not disappointed. I was not let down. So in addition to mimosa, some notes in here are amberette, mandarin, heliotrope, white florals, iris, and vanilla. So it is definitely floral, but mimosa is playing the main role in here. There are some other florals in here that are supporting it, but they're not very distinguishable. Really, mimosa is at the forefront, and in addition to that, it has a little bit of powderiness, which I think is probably coming from maybe iris, maybe heliotrope, maybe both. It is sweet, but not overly sweet. Maybe there is even a little bit sweetness that's coming from the orange as well. The interesting thing about this fragrance, it smells a little bit different on paper than it does on the skin, at least on my skin. When I spray it on paper or I smell it from the bottle, I definitely get this slightly sweet, slightly powdery mimosa. When I spray it on my skin, the opening is actually a little bit different. It almost has a slight leathery vibe. I don't know if mimosa gives that out or something else, or the way it interacts with my body chemistry, I'm not sure, but it almost has a slight leathery touch, but it's so beautiful. It's not animalic or strong type of leather, because I don't get along with leather. This is beautiful. It's like almost this I don't know, leathery flower, and that pretty quickly dissipates, and it goes into this more floral, powdery, sweet scent. It is beautiful. Definitely I would recommend trying it, especially for those of you that are looking for a mimosa centric scent. If you enjoy this note, this is a really nice one to try. Next one that I have is from Boucheron. This is Amber d'Alexandrie. This is a stunning fragrance, and it is somewhat similar to a fragrance that I already mentioned. It is similar somewhat to Nightfall Patchouli from Carolina Herrera. Not identical, but certainly they have some similarities. So the main notes in here are vanilla, benzoin, tobacco, amber, labdanum. And this is definitely about amber, but it's the type of amber that I really enjoy. It is smooth. It is sweet, it is warm, it's not scratchy, it's not spicy, it's not cold. I really don't enjoy that type of amber. This is definitely not that. And overall, it really gives you the feel of eating a freshly baked apple pie. Apple pie that's not perhaps too sweet, apple pie that's not extremely spicy. Like, it has a little bit of cinnamon in it, but not too much. And it really doesn't have any other spices, but it is definitely a warm apple pie. That's kind of the feeling that I get from this scent. So like I said, not exactly the same as Nightfall Patchouli or Eau Jean from Parfums de Marly, or I also have Ferragamo from Bricourt. All of those scents are kind of in the same category of sweet, cinnamony, kind of maybe slightly chocolatey, slightly apple pie kind of category, but they all have their own differences and their own nuances. So this one is really mainly a warm apple pie. Really, really beautiful, especially for the cold weather. And we're down to 2 last scents. So the next one is from Maison Lancôme. Of course, I had to include at least 1 scent from that collection. And you know my love for that line. I really could have included 2 or 3 easily, but I tried to limit myself. And the one that I decided to go with is the one that really surprised me the most from this line, because it features a note that I'm not a fan of, and I was really, when I first tried it, I was so surprised how beautiful this was and how much I loved it. I'm talking about Parfums Trianon. I mean, the scent itself is relatively simple. We have lavender, vanilla, and milk. And this really smells like eating a sugar cookie sprinkled with lavender and maybe having it with a glass of milk. It is sweet. It is beautiful. It is happy, cheerful, warm, delicious. It is all of those things. It is such a beautiful lavender, which is, like I said, a very tricky note for me. In many, many fragrances, I don't enjoy it, but this is probably my favorite lavender scent by far. So gorgeous. Again, I think this one was discontinued as well. You know, they tend to discontinue the best scents. Don't know why, but Parfums Trianon is gorgeous. And let's end this list with an OG that, again, I've had on my wish list for possibly longer than any other fragrance until I finally found it earlier this year. Or was it last year? No, perhaps it was last year. I'm getting mixed up. Too many purchases in the last year, let's put it this way. So this is, of course, from Guerlain, and this is Spirituals Double Vanille, a fragrance that, you know, is so hyped up, and so many people are looking for it. So many people love it. So many people try to find it. And like I said, I finally found it. And was the hunt worth it? Yes, it really, really was. And of course, this had to be included on the list. So this one is boozy, sweet, woody vanilla. It has incense, vanilla, benzoin, cedar. There are a few others, but it is gorgeous. For those of you that enjoy vanilla scents, for those of you that enjoy boozy scents, this really works. It is definitely unisex. Both men and women can enjoy it. And I know that both men and women wear it. This is gorgeous. Again, not a beast. This is on the lighter side. This is on the more, you know, gentle, understated side. It unfortunately doesn't have the best performance, but I don't care about any of that. You know, sometimes there are scents where sort of performance becomes somewhat irrelevant. The scents are just so beautiful and so special where all the other factors are not as important. And to me, this is one of those scents. Yes, I wish the performance was better, but do I love this fragrance any less because it is not? No. This is still one of my favorites, and of course, it had to be on this list. Spirituals Double Vanille from Guerlain. So there you go. These are my 10 for life designer scents, more specifically from designer private collections. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!